Hello, welcome to ET Art and its first official video on its new channel. I thought I would do a video about Gobekli Tepe, I should say, because it is something that is again becoming a mystery to people as to an understanding of why it's actually there, or why it was buried, and why the better work seems to be the older work, and why some of the later work appears to be younger work, or the later work, the recent work not as good, in a hurry, etc., etc. The answers to all these questions you will have in your hand before the end of this video, and every one of the questions was answered. So I will tell you exactly why Gobekli Tepe is where it is, and we are going to discuss a few things that are going to become really quite astounding. Okay, I wanted to just before I start, this is a new channel, and the other videos I have on the other channel do depict some of these rocks, and I wanted you to understand how we've gotten to the point of understanding why Gobekli Tepe is there. Okay, this rock is actually where it all came from. My son found this rock, believe it or not, twice. He showed it to me the first time and I said, oh wow, that looks really important, keep it. And when we got back to the car, he had actually chucked it back in the river again, which was pretty amazing. But we'd had a flood and probably 10-12 foot of water easy across the hole where he had hurled this back in, only to be there back 3 months again and to have him find the very same rock again and say, hey Dad, I found the same rock. So sometimes irony is that, and I actually, be honest, I have made many videos that said I was not going to make any more videos. What happened was every time I'd do that, there would be a rock that would be there, and for some reason I'd pick it up and it would have the very thing I needed on it, or the very thing on it I said that's in the video prior that I made and uploaded, that sounded pathetically stupid, but to me it was where things were pointing. Only to find the next rock I'd go and find it would have exactly that on there, and like I said, the last rock was a human sacrifice itself. So I won't go into that on this one. We're talking about Gobekli Tepe and how we got there, and I want to point out these three marks here and what I understood that to be. And I had, at the point in time of I had gone into looking into global warming video and was looking at what I depicted on Google Earth, which I'll just show you now. And that was this impact site at the bottom of South America and Antarctica, which I saw on Google Earth one night, and I thought, I just wonder if that was the bringer of the planet's precession. And I was making a video, and it's on the video. Okay, so that's actually what happened. I then realized from that point, the rock I had the line on it. I'll show you back to that rock again now, and there, back to this rock again now. And then because I then realized that with the depiction here, there's a straight line off this one here, that this was representing the equator and a line of longitude here, and these were decreasing lines of longitude, so it was sort of showing the curvature of the Earth, I thought. And then I realised that what was depicted by this infill, there's a chunk of stuff stuck into the end of this rock here. This is long before I realised there was any high-tech stuff like I've covered I will cover in other videos on this channel as well. But I knowing full well what about the Easter Island, or the imaginary line that ran between Easter Island. I drew a line between Easter Island and the pyramids, and what happened was this. And you'll note just there's an indentation right underneath that there's a little mark. Okay, not that that's showing, this is showing the southern impact. I'll show you why. And we go back to Google Earth now, and we go above this line here, which is the line that the globe tilted on, because this is what tilted our globe to give us the seasonal weather pattern we have. And when I come up here, the line that drew Easter Island went here, directly there. So I realized that was what my rock was representing, that it had represented the planet tilted, and that's how we got to the pyramid. I'm going to redo that pyramid video in one go, because there are mistakes in it. I fix them up when I go on to another video, and you know, unless you're watching all of them, you've probably gone away watching the first one thinking the boys just missed it a bit. Listen, I'll do it again, because there is something I need to show you, and like I said, I need to shorten the video, but there is something I need to show you in the Serapeum before we go on to the next part. Now I have the image of the Serapeum back up again, and the part I wanted to put right was the point that I had in actual fact made, that these were just pointers here. They're actually not. We're actually seeing here, I'll zoom back in so we can see closer here, we're actually seeing the very comet sequence itself, with our start point being the entrance here, or here, okay, which is where we are when the comets hit. What we're seeing depicted here in the Serapeum is in actual fact the comet sequence. So where the entrance to the Serapeum is here, it goes up and out. Okay, I thought this was just a marker for something that was built into the pyramid itself, but it's not. It's actually the other comet. So we're seeing the northern comet hit here, so the one in the Central America. Here is where we're seeing the up and out caused by the comet in the south or the southern hemisphere. Okay, so now if I go back to Google Earth and we go back out again, the line of longitude that gets hit, I'll zoom back out, so we've got the one here. Alright, that's number one, that's number two. Now what I'm also going to do now is I'm going to go down here and turn an app on that says Age of Ocean, so you can see that the age of the ocean is in actual fact older. Oops, that one there, Age of Ocean. That the age of ocean is older where these where these impact sites are said to occur. So there's one there, and then the other one is down here. Okay, this is the one that causes the tilt on the globe here. Okay, now I'm doing this very quickly. There are rocks that show in microscopic view exactly that. The southern impact splits into four and separates the Australian continent. I will show you where that is shown on one of my rocks. This rock here, which I call my Tintam rock, or melted Tintam, which is why we picked it up. I've had this for years. I didn't even realise what it had on it was in actual fact a depiction of how the very country I lived in was, I wouldn't say created, but certainly, well, one would say the Australian continent is being separated by four meteors or four comets is depicted on this rock. I'll show you there. I will show you another image. Now I've just zoomed into a particular part of that rock. You can see here that the continent of Australia is still depicted as being attached to Asia, and these four bright dots here, I pointed out in another video that they are the ones that separate the continent of Australia from Asia. And this one here we've also gone and looked at as well, which is above ground and visible in the outback of Western Australia. That is what happened to that comet. The northern comet, I will show you now what is depicted on the rocks at a microscopic level, and certainly, like I said, these depictions of these are not just at microscopic level. I will include the odd photo now of another person. I just want to show you one other thing here. Okay, that same rock in another portion of the rock has this depiction drawn or written on it. You can see the 1V there written in Roman numerals. That is highlighted by this little highlighter here, this little bright spot. This is depicting the bigger of the two comets hit the southern, and if you rotate that, we'll just rotate this once here, you'll see that that is a depiction of South America as well. So it's saying the southern impact here is the one that separated South America, and that one created 4 comets. That's what it actually has written right there for you. So the 4 comets that I just showed you above Australia are the ones that were created from the southern impact. Now I'm going to show you what the rocks tell us, because it's taken me some time to find out what happened with this one. I'll show you another image now. Now just back to the Serapeum image again in the comet sequence. We have now looked at, I didn't want to just jump into those northern comet impact sites yet. I've got a string of images I want to show you in respect to that. What I wanted to show you here is where the sequence goes. So we've been hit by 2 comets already, so we're up and out. This is the next comet impact. That's what these are. This is actually showing us the next comet impact here, and what it's doing is hitting us where the Mediterranean is created, because it's 32 degrees above the equator. It has quite a momentous issue on the planet in that it drives it down. The reason I'm saying it drives it down here, and I want to bring to your attention this movement here, because this is the northern impact. So in other words, this is where the Mediterranean gets created. It drives the planet down again, and this is where the Australian continent is created with the 4 comets that hit Australia. And the reason that is that it pushes it back up again is because it hits lower than the equator, and that's how I know that that's actually what that's doing. So I just wanted to show you that that was the sequence here. So it's up and out because the first 2 comets have happened here, and the next thing is the the Mediterranean impact being above the equator, 32 degrees above the equator, stops, pushes it back down. The then 4 comets land in Australia, stopping it going any further, and then the momentum of the planet, rotation and mass of the planet take it out to the end. Now before we move away from the Serapeum, I did want to show you just this image, which was, well, it's one I haven't really put in any video before, and it does show the lesser galleries. And just looking at it, if I was going to use the same sort of iconology and understanding of what I've already looked at, I would look at that and say that this period of time here, I'll zoom in a little bit on this portion here, okay, because we haven't discussed this at any point. I would see that this was reflective of, once again, this here where it's looking like it's regular. It isn't really that regular, okay, and that we'd be looking at possibly the 12,000 years here, and that this is what was actually happening, okay, and these might be indicative of when we had some comet impacts here and things like that. The reason I say that is when I get to the bottom of here, this is what I would see would be depicting my 12,000 years when I was out here with a 24 degrees axis tilt, and then when we start moving in, these 11,000 years here are displayed in a manner up on the forecourt. But the lesser gallery here, I just want you to look at the bottom half here. It too depicts that we have a very long period of time here where we are not above, we are not even below this line. Okay, so it does depict, even on that area, we are way above what would be depicting this line here. Alright, I think that's why it brings us our attention so much to this here. So I reckon in the next pass of Nibiru, I'll show you in another spot why I'll show you that. I won't be a second. Now, one more thing I wanted to show you in the Serapeum was not just that was reflective of a pending impact. There is a vacant, well, not a pointer, but everywhere else where I've just said is in actual fact a comet impact. Okay, so that's why I'll tell you why very shortly why it is so important to know that comet impact sequence there. Okay, but I did want to make note that that one is empty. It's not empty because they were expecting to put another box in here. I would believe this to be reflective of the angle that I've just said Nibiru is coming back in again. So this is once again, and it is south again, so it's on the southern impact, so it is depicting yet again a southern impact. So maybe here we look down on this side as well. Are we looking at vacant ones here, being the amount of comets that are going to hit in the passing and the second passing when the planet is down close to being in this area? We are looking at predictions here of how many comets are going to hit, which is why we're seeing in the lesser galleries this plane of planet Earth being pushed upwards. And I think that's what we're seeing here, a very big push upwards by a comet impact. Probably the one we're going to cop in the this one here in more detail, possibly. You know, another 4 comets here, and then we're going to be shoved right up here when that happens. One other thing I wanted to also note that when we're looking at the tilt of the planet of 10 degrees when we're going from here to here, okay, planetary scientists, that it's very important to get this sequence and understand that there's parts of this diagram or their drawings or their buildings that I would expect are very proportional to what actually happened. So when I look at this here and I see a 10 degrees movement of the planet being equal to 1100 kilometers, okay, and I said, like I said, I can't see anything living, quite frankly, other than it could swim. Okay, that's me. I just, from what I'm looking at, and go have a look at this, but what I'm seeing is the drop. If this is reflective, and there are parts of this part that are exactly to scale, and it is this, right? So we are looking at here a reflective of distance out here of being 1100 kilometers or there, about to get to 10 degrees. We're then getting slogged in above by the Mediterranean impact, which drives us down here. If this is reflective of 1100, well, this is reflective of 500 kilometers in an instant that the planet is driven down by the Mediterranean impact. So even, you know, and like I said, if you look at the arch of the Earth and the arch of a circle, when you move further from the radius or the center of the circle towards the outer part of the circle or the circumference, its scale is not like, you know, ratio. You can be 2/3 of the way there in distance, and the distance you've covered, like with the arc of the Earth, you are still moving. The planet is moving a long way between your feet, even when you're away from the line of longitude, because of the arc of the planet. Now on top of that, if this is reflective in distance, and this is 1100 kilometers, well, we are seeing this planet push down. Our planet is getting pushed down here by nearly 500 or 600 kilometers in an instant. So I don't know how the gravity of the planet works when you are standing on it and that happens. But to me, if it gets pushed down a long way like that, to me that puts me a couple of 100 yards or miles in the air. Because if it's an instantaneous thing that drives the planet, which is what it depicts here, it depicts it's instantaneous. This here and this here is to 10 degrees. These are instantaneous. This is the first one and the second one are showing at exactly the same time here. Okay, so that's what we're seeing. So now, why, you wonder, why is it so important to know the comet sequence? It is important to know it because it separated every landmass on the planet. Now I'm going to discuss the Northern Comet impact, starting from Central America. The story of the two comets and the manner in which they moved the planet has been in actual fact left in very many megalithic formats, or forms I should say, all around the globe. I bring your attention to this image, which is a creation of Julie Ryder, who is a lady that lives in North America. She travels the country over there and takes some absolutely magnificent photos of what would be mountainsides that have been transformed, it would seem, into whatever they wanted to make a shape of. Like, it was absolutely amazing. But for the purposes of the argument today, on the right hand side of the image here, I'm going to now change the image to a zoomed in view. Now this is the zoomed in view of a little, like I said, it's not as megalithic by any stretch as some of the ones that she's posted, but I wanted to post this one because it was where the two rocks in the middle are depicting, you know, the one pointing south, which is the bigger of the two white rocks, depicting two comets yet again. One, the biggest one, creating the slope we're seeing. In other words, it's the one that's knocked out line of longitude. There are many little rocks. I won't go through them all because I would be here all day, and we want to get to the point here. I wanted to show you that this is one megalithic view. I'm going to do a video very shortly about one of a view like this with bigger rocks that is actually built at Gosford and depicts the same thing. So I will do that video within the next week or so. So click the bell and subscribe to hear that, because it's very interesting, and it was one of those things that I didn't see it until I'd actually came back and looked at the photos I'd taken when I'd gone and visited there. So I just wanted to show you that it's done the same story in a megalithic format as well. Once again, this is an image sent me by Julie Ryder, again a friend from North America, and she has sent this image, which is another way and another manner of depicting two comets. You are seeing two round balls indicated here at the top. I'll just move that down a bit so you can see it a bit better. Okay, so this is the southern comet, the story of the southern impact. This is the story of the northern impact. So the northern impact here is shown to, I'll zoom in a bit so you can see what's going on. It leaves a scrape mark on the planet here. It's not as big, okay, therefore the impact on the planet is not as big. This is how they'll depict what happens. Okay, can you see that there? And then what happens, it goes down here, and to me, I said to her, it looks to me like that's actually, looks like it's saying at the bottom of this rock that it's hit above what seems to me the bottom of Africa here. That just looked like it to me, and I thought, well, you know, and I hadn't to this point found a good enough image of an Africa, or the impact above Africa that created the Mediterranean. I want to go back over here, and I will bring your attention to the story of the comet that is on the southern side of here. So that was the northern impact story. This one is the southern impact. It hits at the bottom of what is a depiction of South America. In other words, that it's this grey rock here. Okay, it bounces over here. The scrape mark, like this one, is depicted very small on the other side. The scrape mark is caused here on this rock, shows a very big scrape mark like this. And look at what it's scraped above. It's scraped above Australia. And that's exactly telling us the same story. And just above that rock here, up here, you'll see 4 marks. 1, 2, 3, 4. In a mark across the top of the scrape mark here of that here. So that's actually telling us the same thing. Isn't that amazing? And that's in a megalithic format, I should say, on another country, telling us what happened at the top of Australia as well, but in a megalithic type manner. I will go on. Now I just wanted to go to Google Earth here to just show that we can see the 4 comet impact sites as marked on the other rock I showed you, which is 1, 2, 3 and 4. They're the 4 comets that have hit the top of Australia and separated the Australian continent from Asia. Okay, and if I go around the planet, I will now tell you what happened with the North or Central American impact. So this comet here, it bounces off here and goes across here and lands right here and extends the Mediterranean by about 1800 kilometers. I'll just move that around there a little bit and move the camera up a bit, excuse me. And that's where it lands. Now I'll show you another image that I've got off a rock that shows you that as well. Excuse me a minute, it always does that. Sometimes those programs leave a lot to be desired. In here we have the continent of Africa, and we are seeing a depiction of where the meteorite or comet bounced from there and actually created the east coast of Italy by the look of it, because it stretched from that point all the way through to the end of the Mediterranean, which is why Cairo and the pyramids are exactly there, because that's where that comet sequence finished. At least the one that was in the northern hemisphere. Okay, so it gouged in here, excuse me, I'll move my pointer in here, gouged in here and gouged out all the way through to here. You can almost see that this rock did actually crack after I obtained it. I'm going to do another video on this rock on its own. It did some amazing things, but in cracking it would appear to have created Lake Victoria and the Nile River through here. It's a very, very unusual rock. I will do that, another one, but like I said, this is the best image I've been able to get at a microscopic level of exactly that. These are not coincidence, these rocks are manipulated in their billions. I haven't put a real lot onto this channel yet, but in time I will. Okay, and I want to pan out a bit now, because this is the African continent being created on the very same day that the Australian continent is separated. We are now looking at 7 impact sites. I'm going to pan out just a bit and go up here so you can see that this is depicting comets, and this is saying this one here, it was sweeping in and it's going to go pow. And where did I come from? I came from this direction. Okay, so that's what that's actually doing. It's actually telling you exactly that, and it's a depiction of the creation of the continent of Africa. Isn't that amazing to be the person that's found all this? That's amazing, honestly. If you think all these videos, and what I'm putting up here, pretty gobsmacking, I'm absolutely gobsmacked. I'm not kidding. It seems like every corner I turn I find the answer I was looking for. So I just wanted to put that up, and the importance of why we need to know the comet sequences I just stated. The pyramid is a device or complex that is built to tell us what happened to our planet both during and after the twin comet that knocked us off our axis, right? So it was initially 2 comets coming out of the sky. Now we get to where we're talking about Gobekli Tepe, because that is a precursor. Okay, I'm going to show you one other thing now. Now this is a microscopic image of what I perceive to be showing the North American impact, Central American impact, where the comet is depicted leaving here. If you can see that there, the comet's depicted leaving, and this is a comet that measures on the ocean floor. It's 530 kilometers, in excess of that wide at its its narrowest point, if it's measured that on the floor. So you know, when a 530 kilometer wide comet lifts up, the tidal wave coming back towards the top of South America here, and Central America and the Gulf here would have been astronomical, which is what that image is depicting. I'll just show you another. Like I say, sometimes with the images off rocks you've actually got to be observant to actually see what it is you're seeing. If you walk past this and look at that and you think, oh yeah, whatever, you know, I'll tell you what it is. It's actually a depiction of where Nibiru actually comes from. If I turn it that way and zoom in, you'll see that what we've got here is a nice little igloo. I'll zoom back out again to the point you can see those two items up here in the sky, up here. And it's amazing that these images are not, these are not by coincidence. You get told, I'm getting told on these rocks how to hold my light. You know, they've got instructions on them. Now I just wanted to put a very short bit in here out of the 9 from 9 video. I'm going to move that just a tad this way, because what I wanted to show you on this image here, when we're scanning with our light, okay, which is this sort of light source here, and I've gone off the microscope light here. What I wanted to show you was a couple of things that I say happen. The images that they try to get at its best, and I said to you that they twinkle, or you get a lot of little twinkles when it is you have the light not at its brightest. You actually get the best images with the light down slightly lower, and you'll see it just about here where I start to create this image and I'm down slightly lower. You see you'll get sparklies in, and you'll even see them in the video. They'll start to sparkle off and on in here, in this area here. And I wanted to show you that in that spot, right? And then with that volcano being created, like I said, when you look at an image like this, sometimes on my camera, it actually looks really, really good. Probably because the pixelation is not as good, you know what I mean? It's just a lesser quality screen, so it's a more, you know, because a softer image, in a softer image you can see the volcano stand out more, and I think that's quite deliberate because these meteors or comets came at night time. That's what happened. They both hit on the east, on the same line of longitude at night time. As for all the rest, you know, like I said, there are images that I can get that I can see what I can see, but putting them on a screen so you can see them is really quite difficult at times. So I wanted to show you that part there, and I'll show you one other part, and that's this part here where I'm still at exactly the same part of the rock, and I'll just pause this a bit, although it makes the light a bit poor. When I just start moving this to where it's made that image look like there's tidal waves coming up, I'll just play it again. You'll see once the ocean starts to sparkle over here and I get it really sparkly and all the sparkles come in here, you'll see that actually happens at its best when I dim it down like about here. And it's when you dim it down like that you start seeing all these little sparkles come out in all of these other parts of the image. And what you're seeing there is not, you'll see it even down here now, they'll start flicking down here because I'm getting the light in a better spot. That's when this one also comes out. You'll see that image pop in there. This I wanted to show you basically because I believe we are seeing, when we are seeing this behavior of this lighting in here and flicking off and on, we are seeing here depictions of, I've seen this in other images as well, we are being told on the rocks that we are looking at very crowded cities, okay? We are not talking here about a civilization that was chipping away with a rock, with another rock, all day trying to make a megalithic rock. That is not what is depicted on the rocks. What is depicted on the rocks is a very, very, very populated, well-lit cities. That is what it's exactly why we are seeing these flickers of light, and they are being put into these images, and you see them when the light is at its lowest, not its best. That is when they begin to flicker and you see a crowded, you know, where it's telling you You know, there are lights underneath the tidal wave, you know, or there are lights across the top of the mountain, because that's what you see. Okay, I just wanted to show you that and make you aware. And just to let you know that if you aren't up to speed with the other videos that were not on the other channel, that the image that you see here, if you can say it's not a UFO, if that's what you wish, and that's fine. It's certainly, to me, it looks like a UFO, and it depicts a shadow down here, and not that you really see too particularly well. There are two things marked here. That one not quite so visible. This one here is not so. That one there is easily. And you can see that that's actually a winged planet as well. If I'll just zoom in a little bit there, so you can see that it is actually a winged thing, just like Nibiru is depicted. So when I see the shadow down here, I can see that this and this here aren't the sun, because the shadow's here, so therefore the sun is depicted as being up above here if the shadow is down here. So they are very, very prevalent. They are on the rocks everywhere. And one more thing, now I'm going to press play, and now I've now got the camera zoomed in on that part of the screen. Now watch what happens here with this white thing when it comes in here. Like I said, this is just a movement of light. I've just, excuse my that pointer just flying across there, but I have zoomed into that screen, and I'm just going to let you watch what happens in here and what you see happen underneath the object that turns in. You see how quickly that comes in there? It's like a switch when you do this on, and you can look underneath there. You know, I hold that light in just the right spot there. You can see the objects underneath changing shape. The light adjustment is so minimal. I'm not kidding, it is really quite, that's why I showed you my nerves of steel. Quite an enjoyable experience to see this and become aware that what is on the rocks at your feet is our history. And that history of ours? Listen, what I guess when I'm looking at this, the one thing that I'm not a religious person. I'm a spiritual person. I don't go to a church, but I do and am well aware and was raised in a religion. I won't say which, but there was one line I remember in that book that said, all will be revealed by the light. One wonders whether that too is a line that we were told long ago and we misunderstood. I bring up this image again. It's only an image. I haven't worried about where I'm pivoting this blue line, but if you go back and look at Nibiru's real video, you will see that the line drawn from A to B here is in actual fact drawn off in a line, and the blue line pivots like this, where it's tracked Nibiru in through our inner system, at least what I would expect to be twice in the last 12,000 years. Okay, so this was leading up to the event, which is why this is a depiction of the comets here. So there's 7 comets there, and this is the depiction of what actually happened. Now, like I said, I have put in other videos already. There was some interference and guidance by, would appear to me, guidance. Now you can sit here and say that it landed and separated every continent, because that's what it did. It has landed and separated with 7 individual comets every landmass on the planet, which is why you needed to know that. Now we're going to go and look at Gobekli Tepe. Now this is Gobekli Tepe. I want you to be observant here. I've never been here myself. This is more a, I would imagine, a drawing. I did want you to notice the shadow on the pillars in here. The shadows are running this way. Okay, I'll show you another. Here's another image of one that's in the process of being dug out. I want you to notice the pillars there. The shadow once again is running this way towards us, so we're aligned with the pillars now, so it would be obvious that the pillars point east-west. And I'll tell you what they're pointing to. They're pointing south, and they're pointing to an oncoming Nibiru, and I'll show you an image. And this is what they're tracking. What we see here is, I'll insert it as a screen capture of a rock. What we're seeing here is a depiction of Nibiru and a black planet that rotate around it, and I would expect that I'll go back to that image of Gobekli Tepe and we'll have a look at something there, and I'll bring it to your attention. I'll just insert this picture here so you can see what it looks like. It does look better in a darkened room, that image, but a very hard one to obtain, that one. I just want to show you something else. I bring your attention here to the angle of the two pillars. What you'll find with these pillars here is what they're doing is they're pointing off. One of them will be tracking Nibiru and the other one will be tracking the other body that was going around it. The reason why, I do know from watching documentaries about at least what's known to this point, these pillars are pointing south, so they are pointing in the right direction. They are pointing in exactly the same direction that the pyramid complex in Cairo points to, right? This is why I've shown you the comet impact sequence, because this was built at the end of the northern sequence before the sequence had begun. Okay, so it's saying to you, if you think that the comet landing places were coincidental, you need to think again, because this entire complex was built hundreds of years. It would take, by the look of the indications from the pyramid layout, Nibiru's visibility in our skies with, I would imagine, our technology, because they would know what we have available at the time. They seem to know what's going to happen. That's what's actually happened. That they've actually probably been deceitful to humans, to bad humans, as much as those bad humans were being deceitful to them. I know that might sound a bit silly, but I'm under the belief there is only two images of humans on the pillars, and they are both headless, which brings me back to this image. That's this image here, which I made one video about, which was just the 9 from 9 video, that we're seeing a depiction here of a slaughtered human carcass hung over the back of a table. The 3 black marks in that rock are right in the chest cavity where you would cut the human open. I would think that we are seeing very, very clear indications as to why those comets were landed in the manner that they were. Okay, very, very clear indications. I think Gobekli Tepe is telling you exactly that. It has been buried. It has tracked the two Nibiru and the other planet that rotates around it into our inner solar system, and that's exactly why you are seeing, number one, the better work and stuff that seemed older was better, and the reason is because the Nibiru system was further away, therefore the tracking and ability to track it was more, in one place, so to speak. It didn't, the closer it got, the more the tracking changed, and the speed at which it changed, which is why you saw yet another one built, and yet another one built, and yet another one built, and why there was less expertise shown in each one that was built, because they were having to build another one because the system itself was getting closer. And that too is another proof of why the whole process and why the whole thing is there. So in actual fact, Gobekli Tepe, or Tepe I should say, is in actual fact being built at the end of a comet sequence that hadn't started. and buried. Okay, because the one thing you could question in my theory on the pyramid was that I have said that some of that Cairo system depicted Nibiru or Nibiru's travel into our solar system or into our inner solar system. And I said, and you'd say, well, how, if it's had a tidal wave 100, or as high as the casing stones on the center pyramid, how can that be there? How can that little pyramid and the structures that have been placed there still be there if the tidal wave's gone across Africa that's 100 or 200 or 300 foot high? The answer is, once again, in Gobekli Tepe, because it was buried. That's as simple as that. That's why Gobekli Tepe was buried, because it was left buried, whereas the other part of the complex, which was already built and buried, being Nibiru getting tracked in, which is at the other side, built after, which was built south. Okay, so it was built after the impacts of the comets. So really quite an amazing thing that we've discovered. This is just another image of a complex there, although it looks to be a drawing, but there was, if I pan out just to there, I'll zoom in a bit, you can see that it does say north is in that direction. So the pillars do, in actual fact, it says on this one that it points towards Sirius. Yep, and the pyramid, the tombs and all that. No, not quite. This was built as it was to track those two bodies as they were coming towards our planet. It is directly north of the pyramid complex, because the pyramid complex is a building and structure to tell you what happened to our planet after the comets hit it and during the transition of time when the planet moved from 10 degrees to 24 of axis tilt. And this complex was built prior and tracked those two bodies into our inner solar system, and that is why you are seeing, like I said, the better work done on the older of the work and a more hasty work done on the latter, because they were getting less time to build it because the approaching body was getting closer, and that body was Nibiru. Okay, and now, like I said, we have once again answered some questions, but we probably created a few more. I know the pillars on this complexes have some extinct species. I don't know how all our species aren't gone. Okay, I put in another video what I think happened. I think there were decisions made, and I think not just with people, but these pillars, when they point off in a given direction, may very well point at a continent that used to have the species of animal that is portrayed on the pillar. That after this event, that animal is no longer there and extinct, and that might be why those certain animals are on certain pillars pointing in certain directions, because like the humans on the planet, they chose to save some. They did the same with the animals, and they maybe chose not to save all the animals in some places, which might be why the elephants got put back in Africa, because they would have suffered exactly the same thing as the ones and the mammoths in Russia. So we're looking at what I'm looking at here is the possibility of the very people that chose who to save when it came to humans did exactly the same with some animal species as well. So, and made you realise where they play for keeps, these people. And the one thing I will show you before I go again, and I bring you back to this image because this is what the whole thing is about, and it is why only two pillars at the complex show a human body and it is decapitated. There is behaviour of the humans species that will not be tolerated, and when the behaviour is a threat to the human existence, and I would imagine going around killing and eating babies is probably a pretty good chance that the equilibrium of things, if it got to a point, and everybody does that sort of thing, it expels, it ends the human race. So I don't know why people would do such things. It seems absurd, and you know, there are people out there who probably think it's absurd, but in reality, when you are seeing what you were seeing told to you in this video, I'm not making any of this up, it's all there for you to see. The history of our planet has been written on our rocks in microscopic format, and it has been written there for a very, very good reason. So I hope you've enjoyed my video. I've enjoyed making it, and realization that I not only have been lucky enough to work out when the continent I live on was created, but also the people that live on Africa when their continent was created as well, and separated at least most of it from what was mainland Europe. It's been an amazing couple of weeks, and I hope you, like I said, I hope you've enjoyed my journey. And whilst I keep putting images like this in front of me, like I said, I have said in videos I'm going to go and do something else. Honestly, when it keeps putting things like this in front of me, I have a task obviously, and it's this. So I'm just going to go with the flow. I'm going to register my business name like I have, and we will get on with doing what it is I think I'm supposed to be doing, which is letting everybody know about what we're finding out here. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and please do me a favour, click subscribe, click the bell button, because I've got a lot more interesting videos either than this. I've got more about high tech on the rocks. They're in the pipeline. So click subscribe, click the bell button. I'll notify you. You'll get notified that way when I'm doing something. And if something comes up with the Prime Minister as well, I haven't written him today. I've been actually making this video only because I came to a conclusion whilst I was building my deck that this is what Gobekli Tepe was all about. Okay, so I hope you enjoy my analysis of the complex, but I am absolutely certain with Pyramid, as I am with Gobekli Tepe, I'm 100% correct. That I am absolutely certain of. I wouldn't have made a video and put it up here, so I hope you enjoy it. Thanks very much, have a good day. This is Brian Whitten and ET Art's first official video. Thanks again, bye bye.